friends, it's Chrissy from Knitting in the Heights. Welcome to my channel. It is my May monthly podcast where I share with you all the good things that I've been knitting, some finished objects, some works in progress, as well as today I have a giveaway for summer. So let's get into it, shall we? So first, let's go ahead and start with some finished objects. I'm really excited that I was able to get two things completely finished in the late April, early May. So let's take a look at them. The first one is a smaller project. These are my crumpled socks. The pattern is by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears, and I have officially finished both socks. I started these back in early October to celebrate Halloween, and I just didn't quite finish them, but I'm down for some really fun Halloween goodness at any time of the year. So let's talk about the yarn a little bit. We have, and I'm sorry for the shaking of the camera, my tripod is set up on the bed. We have, this is Yarn Cafe Creations, up here, this purpley pink, and it's in the colorway Hannibal Lecter. And this is the same colorway down here. And then this green at the toe is actually a Craft House Magic Mini. Here and here. Let's see if I wrote down in my Ravelry project page if I remembered. No, I did not remember to put down what the colorway was, but it's one of Ellie's really fun minis based on an 80s pop song, more than likely. The main color is Biscot Yarns in self-striping. It is their Bis sock in the clownfish colorway, and I think the crumpled pattern is really fun in self-striping. I want to try this pattern again in just sort of a speckled yarn. I think that'd be really fun. They are super cozy. I'm looking forward to putting these in my sock drawer and pulling them out and giving myself a very fun October Halloween pair of socks. So yeah, this was a great pattern to knit. I highly recommend it. I knit mine, let's see, I used the old Norwegian cast on to start. I did 12 rounds of just the ribbing, 3 rounds of the Hannibal Lecter before I then went to the Biscot yarns. And then trying to see how many of the pattern, like 1, 2, 3, I think it's 4 rounds of the pattern, 4 or 5 rounds of the pattern up here. And then I just knit my normal length for my toe. The reason I went back to the Biscot yarns is I wasn't sure if I'd have enough to finish off the toe. I often do this where I underestimate how much yarn I have. I did actually have enough yarn, but it's okay. It's fine. I'm sure that green will will go into a magic knot ball or something else that's a little bit stripedy or, you know, something scrappy. That's fun. So yes, super happy with this. Let's take a look at my next finished object, and I'm so excited about this. So I've talked about this project a lot recently because my cousin found out she is pregnant, and I had my longest standing whip, which is a mitered square blanket that I started back in, again, pulling up my Ravelry project page. I started this in 2016, June 4th, 2016. So we're almost coming up to 6 full years of it being a whip, but now it's finally finished. So this was the Sock Weight Patchwork Blanket. It is based on a recipe by Martine Ellis, the Knitted Patchwork Recipe. I knitted out of lots of different beautiful yarns, some of which were mine, some I inherited. But it is, I'm calling it finished. I am calling this finished. I am very happy with it. It's a really nice size for a baby blanket. My cousin is very much into sort of earthy colors, like mustards and browns and greens and navy blues and things like that. There's also some other fun pops of color in here, which I thought would be really fun for a little baby. Her child is a boy that's going to be born. I put a really cute little handmade tag on there that I got from So Sweet Violet. And I was planning to back this in some minky fabric, and I tried. I don't have my sewing machine, and I was trying to basically sew it together basically by creating, I was going to create hand quilted ties in the corners of the fours. And I talked about this at length several times, and when I tried to do it, it was a wonderful idea, but the execution was not working out for me. And also when I felt the two together, it felt really heavy for a baby blanket, especially since I know, you don't really want your baby to get overheated. And I do want this to be something that the kiddo will cherish and light enough for it to be carried around by a little kid. So it's already pretty weighty. There are quite a few grams in this. It was over 300 grams of yarn. I did measure it, and I'll talk about my stash down at the end of this for the month. But it's one of those things too that it felt right to go ahead and end it here. I wanted to add that backing, but sometimes, your plans change, and that's fine. To finish it off, once I completed all of the squares and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 7 by 6 rows. And so it's a 7 by 6 blanket. Once I finished that off, I took this yarn that I used for my botanic shawl that I had left over in the colorway. Oh my goodness. It's Dreams in Color Starry. But it's basically a bear yarn. And I crocheted around to finish it off. So I did single crochets, and then I did half double crochets in US terms. All the way around, created a beautiful rounded edge there. And I just think it, is a nice little border to kind of frame it. Haven't blocked this yet. I will likely block it before I give it to her. But I think it's a really nice size to put on the ground or to use as like a little blanket, like a crib blanket or a stroller blanket. It's just so fun to fold up. I know a lot of people talk about this when they make blankets, but getting to see all those colors, it's a great weight, and I'm just really happy with it. I used a lot of these colors I'll show you are from Stash. This is a Sweet Georgia yarn. I want to say it's like Candy Shop or something like that. It's in their Tough Sock. It's a really beautiful, I made a beautiful pair of socks out of this. This one here was a mini, actually. I think it was probably from an advent calendar. So this one here is actually a club colorway from Sweet Sparrow Yarns. That's the yarn. The yarn is called the Mayfairy. This one is this was a mini that I bought. I think it's called Queen of Heaven. Really, really pretty purples and pinks. This is a mystery tweed yarn in browns. This is a Craft House Magic mini. I don't remember the colorway, but it came in a mini set that I got from her. This is I think this is called, the colorway is called the Akami, and it was from there was a Fantastic Beasts colorway that I got. We also have another mystery. This is actually not hand dyed. This is like a kind of like a big box factory dyed yarn. This is Warm Hands, Warm Heart. This was the 2019 Advent Calendar, like 25th skein from Sweet Sparrow Knits. This is a colorway based on the Green Bay Packers. This one's called like Winter Cardinal or something like that. So as you can see, like they're all very different colors. I've got some hand dyed along with some, harder, like, I don't want to say, they're not rustic necessarily, but like they're more heavy duty sock yarns, right? All fingering weight, all sock weight. But some just really cool color combinations. I've talked previously that there's like one yarn in here that actually uses crab shells in it. But, it's just a really fun knit. I'm glad I got it off the needles. I mean, I really feel accomplished because I am someone that I'm really good at long-term projects, but it just feels so good to finally finish this work. Because, it really started, it was from the start of my knitting career so to speak, or knitting time. I mean, this is one of the first things I cast on when I first started knitting. It was within the first 3 months of being a knitter. I had been a crocheter for a long time, but it was just so nice to finally be able to say it's finished in Ravelry. So those are my finished objects. Let's take a look at my works in progress. I have a lot of works in progress. However, we're just going to focus on the ones that are active at this point, and the one that I plan on kind of going to next. So let's start with another pair of socks. This was my Christmas Eve cast on. I was originally going to knit it in a pattern, and then because of just life and the type of knitting I'm having to do right now, it's easier for me with socks because I do often knit them on public transportation, and I don't want to have to sit and figure out what a pattern. If it's a complicated pattern, it's easier for me to either knit vanilla socks or an easily memorizable, either lace or pattern sock pattern. So I was originally going to do the Vintage Fairy Lights pattern by Helen Stewart. I did do the rib right around Christmas. I think it was on Christmas Eve and Christmas. But then it just sat because I was like, oh, when am I gonna take the time to look up the pattern? It isn't 100% memorizable quickly for me. So I finally said, I love this yarn. The yarn is beautiful. It is from Dandelion and Dogwood. And it was their 2021 25th day skein of their Christmas Advent calendar. And it's called Northern Lights. And it is an absolutely glorious, speckly, sparkly, I can see in the camera, you can see some of the sparkles, representation of the Northern Lights. I mean, there are these lilac colors and teal greens and a little bit of pink and gold, and a lot of it's not even cream, it's white, and the sparkle is just so glorious. It really reminds me of the way snow sparkles in the winter time when the light hits it just right. I mean, it is just so pretty. So I decided to go with just a plain vanilla sock. I am at the stage now on my first sock where I'm about to put in the heel. This is my kind of go-to project, either when I know I'm going to be traveling a long distance, or if I know I'm going to be watching something that I just want to be engrossed in. So, and I don't want to have to think. I've a very mindless knit, another very mindless knit I've been using for that purpose as well. And then one that just takes a little bit more thinking space. But this is really great to just sit there and knit. And so tomorrow I plan to bring it with me. I think tomorrow I have to go to, or the day after tomorrow, I have to go to our furthest site where we have classes because we're going to have recitals. And I need to be there to record them and to welcome all the families and kind of be the administrator on site to ensure that the kiddos have a great end of year recital. So I will be on public transportation quite a bit, knitting on this, and I'll put in the heel, I think, at that point. I don't know if I'll get to the heel turn, but as long as I can put the heel in, I'll be happy. So there's that. My second work in progress is something that I got really addicted to after the last podcast. And then I just put it aside because I was waiting on some needles, which have since come in. So this project, I'm all about the scrappy these days. And I know I'm not the only one. I think a lot of folks are just really feeling they want some color in their lives and something that's might be just a bit mindless. So there's a pattern called the Giant Square Scrap Blanket by Laura Peters. And instead of doing a blanket, I am taking the pattern and I'm changing it into a pillow cover. It's hard to see right now because it is on two small needles, but basically you start with kind of a pinhole in the middle, and then you just increase and increase and increase, and when I run out of yarn, I just change to the next one. And so I'm using up lots of little leftovers, and there's some very beautiful colors in here. Like, I know there's a strawberry shortcake inspired one here called Angel Cake by Yarn Cafe Creations. I can see this is definitely an Ellie from Craft House Magic. You can tell from her speckling. There's just lots of random, beautiful yarns in here. some from advent calendars, some, I want to say this is also, I think this one is a one from Yarn Cafe Creations as well, and I think it has to do, it's one of the horror movie ones. I can't remember which one. But yeah, I mean, it's just really, really fun yarn to, I'm just putting in just whatever I have scrap-wise. And I'm using a, let's see, the size needle I am using for this is a 1.5 needle, which is a good size. And I have a lot of the scraps left over from that blanket, the baby blanket I was working on. They're in here. I don't know if you can see them all. And I basically need to make 2 sides to the blanket. I get to use some pretty knitting jewelry as well. I've got one of these like little confetti bauble things as tiny little stars. And then this was made by So Sweet Violet, this little stitch marker right there. But I'm at the stage now where I 100%, 110% will need to switch, and I have other yarn jewelry on here too, but I need to switch my needles because literally I can't, they won't stay on. So I'm at that point. The hope is to kind of turn it into a square pillow, and do 2 sides and just sew it up, and then I'll have a really nice pillow. I'm debating whether or not to put either buttons on it or at the top, or a zipper. I mean, I could hand stitch in a zipper, I think. That would be fine. Or even Velcro could be kind of cool, but I'm kind of worried that the Velcro would catch on the yarn. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but eventually the 2 sides will go together to form a pillow, and I think it'll just be a nice addition. And it's something different than a blanket. It's something different than, I've never done a lot of home decor type stuff, so I think this will be just really nice. And now let's talk about my next work in progress, and this has taken also a lot of my attention. So my cousin, who I talked about, who is pregnant, I started a baby cardigan for her baby. It is called the Pinson Cardigan, and I'm just looking up all the details, by Nadia Crétin-Lechen, and it is a very, very sweet little cardigan. You are not mistaken, that is sparkle yarn, and it is very sparkly in person. So this is brioche. So the top, this 2-color is a brioche. You do have to do an increase, and that's part of what took me so long to get this far. But I have completely finished the body. So the body, I bound off on it today. I just need to do the sleeves and then add the button bands. The yarn, the main color is by a Homespun House. So the main color yarn is by a Homespun House in the color Return to Hogwarts 2021. And it's a sparkle yarn, and it's just really pretty. The colors match some of the artwork from some of the books. So it's got like a cream and an olive green and navy blues, like different values of navy blue. Kind of a chestnut, I would say chestnutty brown in there as well. And it's really beautiful. It's very soft yarn. It's very pleasurable to knit with. And then the contrasting yarn color. So this is what it looks like in the skein. This is kind of how much I've used. I've actually used quite a bit. I'm really impressed actually with the amount of yarn I've used. And then this color, this is a Miss Babs yarn called Box Turtle. And so this is really pretty as well. And very, very bouncy and soft. This is, the Box Turtle is definitely something that was intended for shawl. There's no nylon in it. So, I'm going to have to just let her know to be careful when she washes this. It is kind of like one of those things that I feel like could be an heirloom that if she has multiple kids, they may end up wearing it. I knit the 3-month size. Pattern things. So the pattern designer is French, and one of the things I noticed, I was knitting from the English version of the pattern, and one of the things I noticed is there was specifically when it came to the short rows, there's a whole section of short rows after you do the brioche, and I don't want to get into too much detail, but there's something in the way she talked about the short rows in the English translation. So I don't know if she did the English or if somebody else did the English translation. There was something a little bit unclear about whether or not, you know how when you do short rows on socks, when you're doing like the heel turn, you are supposed to like knit two together. It didn't really say that, but I think that's what the intent was. And it just, the short row shaping part is just a little bit unclear. I mean, it's fine. I was able to make it work. I don't think it looks too terrible, but I do think somehow I messed up the short row shaping. And of course I didn't figure it out until I had finished all the short row shaping. So I wasn't going back and ripping it out. Forget that. The other thing is, I am not an experienced brioche knitter. I have knit brioche before, but I've only done like one project before this. And I didn't have to do, I think there were increases in that or some shaping in that, but it's been so long since I'd done it that I didn't realize when I was first knitting the brioche, I had made a mistake in a row, just like in one or two stitches, and I tried to fix it, and I know it is notoriously difficult to fix brioche. I actually had to rip the whole thing out, and I think I had to do that twice, if I remember right. I know I definitely had to rip it up. Yeah, I had to basically rip out all the brioche I had done. And brioche takes a little bit of time, so I did put it in timeout. But once I got through the brioche, then it was just, okay, there's a lot of increasing after the short row. There's like short rows, and then it's a raglan shaping, so there's increases and short rows, and then once you get to the plain knitting, that's easy peasy. So it just took a while, and I did put it in timeout for a little while because I was frustrated with the brioche section. But I am very happy with it so far. I would knit this again. What I would do is I would look a little bit, I probably will take a look at the French version of the pattern and see if with my, my limited French skills, if I can kind of work out exactly what they're talking about with the short rows. And then I also have a book on short rows that I might read and just, make sure that I think about how I would want that shaped the next time I knit it. But yeah, it's a beautiful pattern. I think this little kiddo is going to be spoiled. That's all I got to say. Between that blanket and this beautiful cardigan, I think this is going to be one spoiled little boy. All right, the final work in progress. So I am now going also back into my whips to decide what I'm going to do next. And now that I have that big project done and this sweater is almost done, I was thinking about my other cousin. She's my second cousin who's having a baby. I was thinking, what could I knit? I mean, I can always knit baby socks. I have plenty of yarn to do that, and I still might do that. But I have another long-standing whip that I really do love. I think I initially meant it to be a blanket that would be a queen-size blanket, but I just have to come to terms with the fact that I don't do, apparently I don't crochet or knit really big blankets a lot. It's hard for me to keep going on something quite that long. And I really actually want to, one, get my whips off the needles. But two, I've been looking forward to casting on a lot of things. And I've been holding off from casting on things because I want to get these whips done. So back in 2020, it was after everything shut down. I was getting a bunch of mini skeins for things. And I thought, a great way to use these mini skeins and to create something beautiful is to go ahead and hook on a Battenberg blanket by Sandra Paul. So it's actually not too small, and it's almost like at the stage where I feel like I can 100% make a baby blanket out of this. So let me show this to you. So if you don't know this design, it's a crochet design where you create all these teeny tiny kind of closed granny squares. They're not super open, right? And the idea is that it's called the Battenberg because it resembles a Battenberg cake. Battenberg cakes kind of have this checkerboard effect. We don't see those a lot in the US, but the designer is from the UK. So my cousin is having a boy as well. My other cousin is having a boy as well. And I was looking at this and I was like, wow, this is actually like a good start to a baby blanket. And not only do I have that, but I have loads of already created colored squares. I'm kind of at the point where I think I have these, which are kind of multicolored ones, I think they are. Yeah, where I took multiple yarns, and I think I'll just use them as is actually, and just sprinkle them throughout where they're a little bit more scrappy. So it's like I had like just tiny bits of yarn, right? And then I joined them to another mini skein of tiny bits of yarn to use it up. But you wouldn't really know that it's not like one mini skein that has all those colors. I mean, a lot of sock yarn does that, right? But I also have piles and piles and piles of these like colored skeins. And I think at this stage, I don't even know that I need to crochet anymore. Like, I think I just need to sit down and put it together with the cream colored ones. There's a lot of pastels in this, which, you know, that's fine. I mean, baby blankets, whatever. I mean, if they don't like it, then give it back to me. I will take it back. It's no problem. But I think they'll like it. So yeah, I mean, I have loads of colors, lots of bright colors, sparkle yarns, non-sparkle yarns, mostly hand-dyed, actually. So yeah, I think it's time for me to go ahead and now kind of concentrate on this. Once I finish that sweater, that's the next thing, is I'm going to go ahead and step it up. I mean, it does not take as long, because crochet in general, you cover more ground, right? In the amount that it takes to knit up things, you cover a lot more ground. I mean, I remember when I was first going to like knit/crochet groups, I was crocheting first. And people would get really like annoyed that I'd come back with a full garment for a baby in 1 week. And I'm like, well, it's crochet. It does take a lot less time. But I think it's coming out beautifully. I don't think I'll do the picot edge on it, but I will do a solid border all the way around. I'm not sure if I do want to use cream though for that. I might choose like a leftover that I know I have enough of to crochet around. So yeah, I'll just have to decide on that. I'll look through my stash and see what I have. And while I'm working on this, oh, and just so you know, the hook size is a 3.25 millimeter hook. Just using one of these I've had in my stash for years. But whatever is left over, I'm putting into this magic knot ball. And what I do with my magic knot balls is I've been working on a corner to corner scrappy crochet blanket using magic knot balls also for years, and I think next winter that'll be one of the things I really focus on, because I'm at the point now where I'm creating the rectangle. I'm in the middle, kind of in the middle section where all the increases are done. I'm like rectangling, making a rectangle, and then I will decrease. But yeah, I'm so happy that, you know, I'm getting these big projects off my knit hook and my needles. And it just gives me a lot of satisfaction to know that I'm creating beautiful things out of yarn I've had for years. Okay, so that's all my works in progress that I'm going to talk about right now. Let's get on to our giveaway. So if you haven't been watching me, I'm doing these quarterly giveaways. Oops, I don't want to leave any squares out. That would be terrible. I'm doing quarterly giveaways that coincide with the equinoxes and solstices. And we are coming to the summer equinox. No, we're not. We're coming to the summer solstice. You know, some days are hard. So anyway, we're coming to the summer solstice. And I used to, when I lived in North Carolina, there was actually a great summer solstice festival in Greensboro, North Carolina. If you get a chance to go to it, if you live in North Carolina or near North Carolina, it is so much fun. It's all the hippy dippy people. It's beautiful. It's my people. They're out there reading their tarot cards with their crystals. People are dressed as fairies. There are fire dancers and all sorts of fun things. And it's just a really great community thing. It's at the Greensboro, I think it's the Botanical Gardens. And it's just a beautiful day of people getting out there and just living their lives and just having fun. So if you do live in near Greensboro, North Carolina, I highly recommend it. But anyway, I just want to capture some of that spirit of fun and freedom and beauty of the summer. I'm not a fan of summer generally, especially not in New York City, but you know, I want to bring some beauty and joy to people's lives for this summer. So I am doing a giveaway this quarter that focuses on summertime. So our main skein of yarn is by Craftily Dyed Yarns, and it's in the Firefly colorway. It is 50 grams, 231 yards. Be great for socks. and it's in the classic sock. It's a 75-25. And then I'm also going to be giving away a chick that knits in the color Wisteria Lane. So if you want to make socks, this is should be a 20 gram mini. I'm pretty sure it's a 20 gram mini. So you could totally make a pair of socks out of this. Really fun. And I also bought this really beautiful collection of stitch markers and a progress keeper from So Sweet Violet. I'm not sponsored by any of these folks. I just really like their products. So it's hard to see, I'm sorry. But it's very summer themes. You've got, it's like purples. It's mostly purples actually, and kind of lavenders with like a, sort of like a lavender colored daisy with a bumblebee. And it's just really pretty. I thought that'd be a really nice set to give away. And then whoever wins will also get some nice tea, as well as a nice postcard from New York City. So if you are interested in winning this yarn, and it does not matter where in the world you live, as long as you live someplace where a post office will deliver, I will send it to you. You just need to drop me a line down below and tell me what you're looking forward to this summer. I'll pull the winners in the June podcast, and I will let everybody know. But yeah, I really love giving away this yarn, and I've had fun meeting new people through these giveaways. Our last two giveaway winners, one was in Ireland and the other one was in Canada, and I'm so glad that I was able to just brighten somebody's day. All right, well, that's it for the knitting content and crochet content of this podcast this month. We'll just talk a little bit about life stuff. So those of you that are new to me, you may not know about my life. I live in New York City, and I work for a music nonprofit organization where I am the director of education. I also have two kiddos. I have a daughter, Colleen, who lives in North Carolina with her dad and stepmom, she is 13 years old. And I have a son, Gabriel, who is 8 years old, who lives here in New York City with me. Gabriel we've been transitioning Gabriel to his new school. So in New York City, well, first of all, Gabriel's on the spectrum. He has autism spectrum disorder. We knew he was diagnosed before, like we knew he had it probably between 18 months and 2 years, but we got the official diagnosis at 2 years. He has been in a regular public school setting since we moved to New York City. He was receiving services in North Carolina for quite a while, and in North Carolina it was just one school district, so it was a little bit easier. He was in special education classrooms. They did have him his last year in pre-K. He was in this kind of combined classroom that was like for kids on the spectrum, but also kids that just needed, like they had speech delays, things like that. When we moved to New York, though, he went directly into a regular classroom because his individualized education plan did not transfer, and that had to do with age. So in North Carolina, he was classified as a pre-K student. In New York City, he was classified as a kindergarten student. It was literally like one day apart. He went from pre-K to kindergarten. It is just because of how the schedule works for what grade you're in. So in New York, it's by the calendar year. In North Carolina, it's by the school year that determines that. And Gabriel his birthday's in November, so he's like right on the cusp of being in the calendar year. But so it's kind of challenging. He's a very young third grader right now. Let's just say that. So since I've been here, I've been trying to get his IEP sorted out so that we can get the correct placement. It was a challenge. It is a challenge every single day still. But good news is we finally got the correct placement for Gabriel. He was transferred into the special education district in New York. So New York has lots of school districts because there are over 1 million children in New York City. Lots of school districts. And those children with the most needs, that like the most challenging needs based on disability, they can be classed to stay within their community school environment. They do have special education classes in the community school environment, but then those that have more extensive needs, they can be put into the District 75 school environment. So we have been trying to work out what is the best placement for Gabriel, because he is very high functioning, but his autism spectrum disorder it is a spectrum. And for him, he gets very, very overwhelmed, even though he's at grade level in most areas, socially, and with the environment, especially in New York City school environment, it can be very challenging for him. So anyhow, they finally got the right placement set on his IEP, and we were able to expedite it because there was a special seat that opened up in a District 75 classroom, and the school was able to place a hold on it while we finished up his IEP. So we have now moved to that school, and he's fully transitioned, and it is the best school environment for Gabriel. First of all, there's maybe 50 students in the entire school, which is a huge difference for Gabe. There's only 8 kids in his class, and in his class there's like 4 adults to manage 8 children. The majority of, actually all of the students in his class are also on the spectrum, so the teachers and all of the assistants really understand the needs of this of kids on the spectrum, of what they need, how they process information, and what to do when they're challenged, like their challenging behaviors are triggered due to overwhelm and overstimulation. So this has been such a blessing for us, and a lot of the day-to-day stressors of just me being worried about Gabriel and his education a lot of those have diminished. What I will say is we're almost a month in, if not a month, maybe a month in at this stage at this school, and they still haven't worked out transportation for him. So we live in Washington Heights, which is pretty far north in Manhattan Island. His school is in Hell's Kitchen in Midtown, which is on the west side of the island, but below Central Park. So what we have to do every day is we get on the A train. There's actually a tune called Take the A Train that's actually based on that exact train. We take the A train down and we ride 5 stops, which doesn't seem like a lot, except it's the express train. So we ride all the way down to 42nd Street, which is Times Square. We then walk two avenue blocks, which are the big blocks in New York City, to the west, and then 2 blocks north to get to his school every day. It can take anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes for a commute that way. He is supposed to be bused, and that was part of his individualized education plan, was to allow him busing. But because we're at the end of the school year, this has not happened yet. And it's unfortunate, actually, because it would make my life just that much more easier. I will say I am getting my steps every day, though. The other thing that has been a bit of a challenge for me is there is no after-school care that's physical at the school. So I've had to basically hire a babysitter for him that works for us part-time. She can work between, I would say between 10 and 20 hours a week babysitting Gabriel. So that's an added expense that I wasn't anticipating, because he was in an after-school program that would keep him until just about 6 o'clock every night. And I mean, I do get home around 6 o'clock each night, between 5:45 and 6, or even 5:30 and 6, depending on what school I'm at. But that has been a financial challenge, let's just say, for us to navigate. And, you know, living in New York City is not inexpensive. And so that is where some of my stressors have gone to at this stage. So between that, so it is a really great change. And his babysitter is amazing. She is a dear friend, dear family friend. So that does help. And I totally trust her. But it's just been a little bit of a challenge financially for our family. Other updates, we're at the end of the school year, so I'm really busy going out to school sites. We've already had 3 performances. One was recorded, and then it was just a recorded performance where the students played for each other, a couple classes played for each other. And that video will go out to families when the rest of the school does their recital. And then we have, I had 2 this week, one in the Bronx and one in Queens. And so we're just trying to wrap everything up. And in the midst of that, I'm also trying to plan for our summer camps. So work has been busy. Let's just put it that way. It's just been real busy. Yeah, so that's basically what's going on in our lives. You know, I really would love to take a vacation. I don't know when I'm going to get time to. But I'm looking forward to having my daughter here this summer. Colleen will be here for about just under a month, and that'll be really good for everybody in the family. Anyhow, it's great to see you all virtually. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. If you don't, that's fine. I hope you find something that you do enjoy. Anyhow, I hope you have a great day. I'll see you next month. Bye.
Subscribe and hit the bell. And goodbye.